Hello, friends. Welcome to the Bright Morning Podcast. I'm your host, Elena Aguilar. And in each podcast episode, you'll hear me demonstrate how you can lead conversations that build connection and spark change. Have you ever found yourself thinking that sometimes the people that you love the most get the version of you that you like the least? I know I have. So on the one hand, that's normal and sort of a good thing. When we're dysregulated or just plain tired, we need safe spaces where we can show up and feel safe in whatever state we are in. And we also want to nourish our relationships and do better when we are able. This is what our summer break series is going to help you do. So from now through the end of July, each episode will teach you how to take a power coaching move and apply it to any and all of the conversations in your life. And I'm going to be focusing on your personal life because that might be where you're spending more time this summer. So every one of these conversations that I'm going to be talking to you about applies in any context. And that's the beauty of coaching. It's professional development and personal development wrapped up all into one. So in these episodes, I'm going to tell you about the move, explain why it works, and then I will demo what it can look like in action. All right, before we dive into this content, I have an exciting announcement to make, which is that this episode and just about all of my podcast episodes moving forward are now available as video podcasts on YouTube. And you can find a link to my channel and to this episode in the show notes. Okay, let's jump in. So today's coaching move is all about preparation, not the kind with note cards and talking points, but the internal work that happens before you even say hello. I call it noticing, releasing, and setting an intention. So let me tell you why this matters so much. Our conversations don't happen in a vacuum. We bring our whole selves to them, including whatever stress, anxiety, or distraction we've accumulated throughout the day. Now, when we don't acknowledge that baggage, it can leak into our interactions. So take a moment and think about the last time you snapped at your partner or friend or your children after a rough day at work. You can probably recognize that you weren't actually upset with them. You were carrying unprocessed emotions from somewhere else. So the preparation practice that I'm sharing with you today gives you a reset button. Let me break it down for you step by step. So first, noticing where you are. This step is about becoming aware of your current mental and emotional state. Are you feeling rushed or anxious or distracted? Just take 15 to 30 seconds to scan your body and your mind. Where is there tension? What thoughts are circling around? Which emotions are present? Now, this isn't about judging yourself. It's just about cultivating awareness. You can't navigate out from where you are if you don't know your starting point. Okay, the second step is releasing what you can. So once you've noticed what you're carrying, decide what can be temporarily set aside. That work deadline you've got, it will still be there after your conversation with your kids. That argument from this morning, you can return to processing it later. I like to use a physical gesture here, taking a deep breath and then exhaling slowly while imagining the tension flowing out of my fingertips. It's simple, but it is surprisingly effective. And finally, the third step is setting an intention. And you can ask yourself, how do I want to show up in this conversation? What qualities do I want to bring? Maybe you want to have patience with your teenager or curiosity with your partner or compassion with your best friend who is struggling. The intention that you set becomes your North Star. If the conversation gets challenging or when your mind starts to wander. Now, let me tell you a little bit about why this works. So our brains are constantly processing information and experience. And without intentional breaks, we carry what we can think about as emotional residue from one interaction into the next. When we take even just 30 seconds to prepare for another conversation or a different way of interacting, we create a boundary between experiences. This short reset allows us to be more present and responsive rather than reactive. Research from neuroscience shows that really brief mindfulness practices like this one activate our prefrontal cortex, which is the part of our brain which is responsible for making decisions. And this kind of a reset also calms our amygdala, which is where our flight or flight responses are triggered. So essentially, by taking this 1-minute pause, we are priming our brain for connection rather than protection. Let me share a personal example of how I've used this in my life. So a few summers ago, I was working from home while my son was on break. And I had back-to-back Zoom meetings all morning. And the last one ran over by 15 minutes. So by the end of that time, I was hungry, I was behind schedule, and my next task was to help my son with an art project that he was really excited about. As I stood up from my desk and I closed my laptop, I noticed that I was carrying the frustration from the morning and the time pressure. And I know that if I had walked directly into that conversation with my son, I likely would have been impatient and kind of short and focused on efficiency rather than connecting with him. I've been down that path before, and I know where it ends, with both of us frustrated and me needing to apologize later once I was fully resourced and I could see clearly where I had gone wrong. And so instead of going down that path, I took 60 seconds to prepare. I noticed my shallow breathing. I noticed the tension in my shoulders. And I released what I could by taking 3 deep breaths and reminding myself that my schedule was my choice to manage. And then I set an intention to be present with my son, to be curious about what was going on with him and his art project, and just to connect. And that minute completely shifted our interaction. So instead of rushing through that project just to get it done, I was able to enjoy his excitement and his curiosity, and we both had a much better experience because I took 1 minute to prepare myself for our time together. Let me give you a few demonstrations of what this could look like in practice. So imagine that you are about to have dinner with your family, and it's been a long workday with one particularly challenging situation that might still really be on your mind. All right, so step one is notice. And you can say to yourself, I'm feeling tense about that unresolved issue with my colleague. And I'm noticing that my jaw is clenched and my shoulders are up near my ears. And I'm just mentally rehearsing what I should have said in that meeting. Step two, release. I'm going to take 3 deep breaths and physically shake out my hands. I can't solve this work issue right now, and I'm going to choose to set it aside until tomorrow morning. As I exhale, I release the tension in my shoulders. Step 3, set an intention. For this dinner conversation, my intention is to be present with my family. I want to bring curiosity to hear about their days and appreciate this time together. Okay, that's to prepare you for dinner with your family. So let's explore another example. Let's say you are about to have a conversation with your teenager about their college applications, and you are worried that they have been procrastinating a little bit too much. So let's go into step 1. Notice. I'm feeling anxious about these application deadlines. I notice I'm experiencing some fear that my child will not get into a good school, and I'm already starting to craft a lecture in my head. Step 2, release. I'm going to take a moment to release my tight grip on this outcome. The college that my kid attends doesn't define their worth or my parenting. I'm going to breathe into this anxiety and create some space around it. Step 3, set an intention. My intention for this conversation is to listen with an open heart and to convey trust in the process that my child is using. I'm going to bring curiosity rather than control. Okay, I'm going to share one more example that you might be able to relate to. So imagine you need to have a conversation with your partner about finances, maybe about a recent unexpected expense or about different priorities for a summer vacation budget. So step 1 is notice. I'm noticing tension in my chest just as I think about this conversation. I'm noticing that I'm carrying some resentment about the last time we discussed money, and I realized I'm already anticipating that my partner's going to be defensive. I also feel a little bit of shame because I spent more money than we'd agreed on last month. Step 2, release. I'm going to take a few deep breaths and let go of the narrative that my partner always gets defensive. I'm also going to choose to let go of past financial conversations, and I'm going to choose to approach this one fresh. I'm also going to release the idea that there is a right way to handle our money. Step 3, set intention. My intention is to bring partnership to this conversation. I want to listen as much as I speak. I want to assume good intentions. And I want to remember that we're on the same team working toward shared goals, even if our approaches differ. I hope you can see how these different conversations would be really worth just 1 minute of preparation and how different the conversation might be. Without that minute, you could bring work stress to family dinner or anxiety to a conversation about college. And with preparation, you create the conditions for connection. Okay, let me give you just a few tips as you practice this power move. First, start small. Try preparing for one conversation a day, maybe one that you know might be challenging. Second, use physical cues. Your body often holds emotional residue, so incorporate physical release through deep breaths or shoulder rolls or simply changing your physical position. Third, keep your intentions simple and authentic. One word is often enough. Patience, curiosity, compassion, lightness. Choose a word that resonates with you in that moment. I hope that you're getting excited about trying this out. And now, to help you get set up to be successful, let me preempt some challenges that you might face. So perhaps you think, I don't have time for this practice. All right. Remember, what I'm suggesting can take as little as 30 seconds, which is the time it can take to walk from one room to another, or just to take a few deep breaths. Now, maybe you find it difficult to identify your emotions. And that's really common, especially if you weren't raised to name feelings. And so start with physical sensations. See if you can notice if you're experiencing tightness in your chest or shallow breathing or your shoulders up by your ears. And then see if you can work backwards to name the emotion. In the show notes for this episode, you'll find my tool called the Core Emotions Tool, and that can help you develop a rich vocabulary to name your emotions. All right, finally, you might forget to prepare before these important conversations. So consider using transitions as reminders. Maybe before you enter your home, or before you sit down to dinner, or before you pick up the phone. Those can be cues to take 30 seconds, 60 seconds to prepare. All right, my challenge for you this week is to practice conversation preparation before 3 different interactions. Maybe choose a conversation with a family member, a different one with a friend, and one that might be related to work if you're working this summer. And notice the difference in how these conversations unfold if you've done the preparation compared to the unprepared conversations. All right. Remember, transformational coaching isn't about perfection. It's about intentional practice that gradually shifts our behavior patterns, our ways of being. Even small moments of preparation can result in significant changes in your relationships over time. All right, so that's it for today, friends. If you want more of me telling you exactly what to do in common coaching and life scenarios, you are going to want to check out the show notes to learn more about my learning library and transformational coaching PLC. And this coaching learning library is your go-to resource for transforming ordinary conversations into transformative ones. If you want to bring some of the ease of summer into your work this fall, then you're going to want to join me over there. All right. Finally, folks, if you appreciated today's episode, then would you please share it with someone you know who might also benefit from it? And, or you could hop over to Apple Podcast and leave a 5-star rating and review to help others discover it. Or if you're watching me on YouTube, then like this video, and you can also share it with someone who might appreciate it. Thank you so much for helping our show reach some new friends. And also, thank you to Leslie Bickford, who is the podcast producer, and to Stacy Goodman, who does the sound engineering. Take care, everyone. Be well.